So today's koan is a little esoteric, but I think we'll get past the esotericness of it pretty quickly. Case 25, the koan seat, sermon from the third seat. Master Kyozan went to Maitreya's abode in a dream, and was led to the third seat. A venerable monk struck the anvil with a gavel and said, "Today, the third seat is due to speak." Kyozan stood up, struck the stand with the gavel, and said, "The Dharma of Mahayana is beyond the four propositions and transcends the 100 negations. Listen, listen." Wumon's commentary. Just say, did he preach or did he not? If you open your mouth, you miss. If you shut your mouth, you miss too. Even if you neither open nor shut your mouth, it is 180,000 miles away. The verse. The broad daylight, the blue sky. He speaks of a dream in a dream. Suspicious, suspicious. He is trying to deceive the whole assembly. So, let me first bore you with the four propositions and the 100 negations, and I think that Eiken Roshi phrased it a little better than Yamada Roshi. Okay, the four propositions are the one, the many, being, and non-being. So, the 100 negations are made up with the four negations for each of the propositions. So, not one, not many, not being, and not non-being. Okay. And both. Oh wait. So that makes, if you do that with all four, that's now 16. Each of these 16 is found in the past, present, and future. So you take the one, the one of the past, present, and future, the not one of the past, present, and future, and then do that with all four of those. Then you get to the, that makes 48. These have either appeared or have not yet appeared. So you take those 48 and you have them either appearing or not yet appearing. Then you get to 96. Then you go back and you negate the original four. That gets you to 100 negations. Got that? Fortunately, what the koan is what's beyond all that. So all that, and those four negations are part of Nagarjuna's dialectics. They come directly out of Buddhist philosophy. Nagarjuna was 3rd century Indian, so he wrote several treatises, but one of the treatises was what phenomena is made up of, what the phenomena is made up of, being, not being. One and many, thank you, and not one and not many. So those were a very popular way of teaching Buddhism up until it got to China, when the Mahayana started to take over the turn of the 1st century, the 1st millennium, and then all that thinking and philosophizing kind of dropped away. So that is what this is about. So getting to the Dharma of Mahayana is beyond the four. propositions and transcends the 100 negations. This does not mean that these these ways of looking at reality or rules or dialectics are not important. They are. They're very interesting to study and offer a very unique way of looking at reality that's different from the way most people see reality. So it does not denigrate them. It just goes beyond them. So transcending takes all of that with it, but then it gets back to what's real. What's real is what you're hearing at the striking the anvil. That whack, the shout, this instantaneous awareness of what's right here, right now. That's the listen. What's happening? Where are you? Who are you? And that's why it's also beyond words and not words. That's the Beaumont's commentary. If you open your mouth, you miss it. If you shut your mouth, you miss it. Even if you neither open nor shut your mouth, is 180,000 miles away. Because it really, what is now can't be expressed. That is not, again, not denigrating the fact that we have to conjure up language to speak about these things, because it's the only way we could communicate them. We are language creatures. So we'd use language, but recognizing the limitations of language and what it can do and what it can express and how it can bring you to the experience of enlightenment. Words will never get there. Words will never be able to quantify that because they're late. It takes a few seconds, a few milliseconds for the brain to actually, realize what's happened and then speak. So by the time you're talking about it, it's past. It's no longer now. It's just, it has moved on. So that's what's suspicious. Is all this talking that we do. So all of these expressions, it's delusion, it's deceptive, intentional. It is intended to certainly raise the Bodhi mind, so that you can directly experience and understand that all this chattering we do about the Dharma is just that. It's chattering after the fact. Not that it's bad, but it's not it. So how do you get to it? How do you get to this right here, right now? And that doesn't explain it. Further, what an Aiken Roshi also better expresses this. What Master Kyozan is experiencing is called Makyo. Now the definition of Makyo, it's a diabolic phenomena from the Akuma devil and Kyo phenomena. Makyo are deceptive appearances and feelings that can arise in the practice of Zazen. So, and that, and certainly you read a description of this when the Buddha was sitting near the Bodhi tree. All these visions and Mara visiting him and promising him all of these riches and wealth and a kingdom if he would just get up and stop doing Zazen. He would get all of these things. They're hallucinations, and certainly if you've ever, one of the reasons we tell people don't stare at the floor, keep your eyes half open, but you let your vision go soft, because if you stare at the floor, it will start to move. It looks like it's moving. It's not, the floor isn't moving, it's your eyes that are moving. So those are kind of the experiences that people have. And I can remember, I don't know if I forgot that instruction, because I remember sitting, first time, probably because I was used to sitting as Zen While Sandals to begin with, and we faced the wall. So there wasn't much to look at. So when I went to start going to Yokoji, we faced out, and I was then looking at the floor, and I began to see cityscapes. rising and falling. It's like, the introduction to Game of Thrones. Yeah. I was saying that decades before Game of Thrones came up with it. Should have done something with that. But that's, that whole thing that he does in that introduction is what I was seeing on the carpet. And then there were other, kind of experiences that happen as a result of sitting in Zazen. That's Makyo. So he's having this dream of transcendence, this transcendent dream, Kyozan, and then which is what this koan is, where he's now going to Maitreya's abode. Now Maitreya is the future Buddha, the Buddha that will come in the future, but he's not due for several billion years. So, like 670 billion years. I don't know how they came up with that calculation, but I'll just trust that, somebody figured that out. I don't think I will be around at that time, or whoever it is, or whatever it is I am in 670 billion years. I'll worry about it then. So he's sitting in the third seat. So an interesting position. In Asian culture, where one is seated at the table or in the room is vitally important. Not so much in the United States, we're a little bit more egalitarian about it. But in China, it's the more senior person or the more venerated person sits closest to the altar. If you're in somebody's home, if you're off the place next to the family altar, that is a place of honor. And I know in tea ceremony, we have the most senior person, the most venerated teacher, always sit closest to the tokonoma. The tokonoma is the most sacred place in the tea room. But when you offer these positions to people, the culturally polite thing to do is refuse. It's like, oh no, chotto. So it drives me crazy as an American because it's my job to get people seated in the tea room for these demonstrations, and we're on a time crunch here. It's like, I don't have time for all this ritual declination. You're the highest ranking person here. Just sit down and be done. So no, but they have to go, no, I can't. Oh, let's have sensei sit over there. Oh, this one is better than I am. And I'm like, oh no, sensei, you're the highest. No, sensei, please. You set the best example. Crazy me. But it's what they do. So to be sat in the third seat is a high-ranking seat because it is third from Shakyamuni. Shakyamuni is first. Maitreya is second, and the Master Kyozan is now being sat above all the other bodhisattvas in the third seat. So quite the transcendent position that he takes in his own dream. So this is his dream. So this is quite lofty, and he does this position well with his pronouncement. Nothing Mahayana is beyond the four propositions and transcends the 100 negations. Just listen, be present, pay attention. What is this? So that's where we are. This dream within a dream, which is in the verse, the broad daylight in the blue sky, he speaks of a dream in a dream. Suspicious, he is trying to deceive the whole assembly. And we are in this dream. Our life is usually lived kind of retrospectively, because we're constantly remembering what our life was and making up what it is we want to become. So, and none of that is real. So that is the dream that our life is made up of. And we're moving within this dream that we are making a dream in. So it's this dream within a dream. It's interesting that Eigen Roshi cites the play within a play that Shakespeare often did in several of his plays. Hamlet The one that he cites is, and the quote from that plays, since it's one of my favorite plays. I belong to a movie club, and they do a random circle to see who decides what the movie is that everyone's going to watch. The groans that I listed when I said you have to watch, what's his name, the 4-hour Hamlet, that who does all the Shakespeare movies? Branagh. So yes, Branagh's Hamlet, because he did the entire thing, and it's 4 hours long. No one watched it. But in that play, if you've seen it, there's a Hamlet hires his players to put on a play, and he writes the play, and it's really about the whole scenario about what his family's done. And at some point, he asks his mother, what she thinks of the play, and his mother, who is talking about the character that is portraying her, says, "Methinks the lady doth protest too much," which is kind of interesting. So, methinks the Buddha doth protest too much, and that's you and me, all of us within this dream. That's our suffering. That's our state of being. Is this life of suffering? Because we're constantly trying to fix this, trying to make it into something we want rather than what it is, and trying to rewrite history. Our own history becomes very revisionist, somewhat incidentally, because our memories are lousy. We don't have rote memories. People think they do because you remember things in little snippets, and then you fill in the gaps, and it feels like it's a complete story. And the only way my own direct experience is that I will have this very strong memory of something that happened, and I know it was the most important thing of that time, and I will go look it up in my journal, and it got barely a mention that day, along with everything else. So my memory of it today was completely different than my experience of it on the day that I actually journaled about it. So, which I thought that was kind of funny, that it's so important now, but it certainly wasn't then. But here we are, in this dream within a dream. The stuff that we're just making up as we go along. And how do we get beyond that? How do we truly experience what is beyond all of these thought games, this philosophizing? Not that it isn't valuable, not that it doesn't have its place, not that these rules and forms don't serve a purpose, because they do, but they're not it. They are not what this direct experience, this intimate experience of reality is, because that intimate experience happens every single instant of your life, every single second of your life it's going on. And it can't be captured in words, it can't be captured in ideas and philosophizing. Certainly, what this practice does is give you a form in which to experience that, and that's Zazen. That's the key, is to just shut up, sit down, and be, and just experience life just as it is. Easy. The instructions for Zazen are quite easy. You sit in a particular posture, and you follow your breath, and you let the thoughts go. Simple. What is it? Simple to give instructions on, but try following that for longer than 5-10 minutes and see what happens. It's hard. It is very difficult to stay present. It's very difficult to really intimately appreciate this gift of this now, without trailing off and making up stories and calling it something else. And that's the work. It is to keep bringing yourself back over and over and over and over again. And there's no There's no easy way, no way to make it any easier. There's no gimmick or, I mean, Zazen, my Zumbi Roshi called Zazen a gimmick. I was so insulted. The Zen Master is calling my practice a gimmick. How dare he? But it's a trick to get you to be present, to get you to recognize that you are always present, and the only place you are is in the moment. That doesn't change, whether you're realizing it or not. That's what's happening. That's the only place your life is. Whether you realize it or not, that's your enlightenment. It's there all the time, every single second of the day. But where are we? We're off someplace else. Instead of being the enlightened selves that we naturally are, being in our equanimity that we naturally are, we are making up excuses to not be in balance. And yeah, it's fun. We have all forms of entertainment available to us in any given moment in our brains. The brains are just endlessly, entertaining ourselves. And to get it to not do that, to get it to be more facile with being in the moment, is the hard work of Zazen. And it is very hard work. Which is why you don't see thousands of people doing it. There are people who would rather, and certainly someday so would I. Give me. I need another YouTube video, something that I don't have to deal with reality right now. Much easier not to do that. So we have chosen a path that is difficult. It's a challenge. Congratulations for that, for choosing. Does that make us better, more superior? No. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be nice if. We're great bodhisattvas. We deserve all the amenities and accoutrements that come with enlightenment. But enlightenment is a demotion. You get to deal with reality just as it is, which doesn't come with a chauffeur-driven limousine and your personal chef. It comes with reality and taking care of reality just as it is. And that's the word. There's one other note that I thought I underlined. It's not love. Okay. Must have been important at the time, and I forgot to write it down. Okay. No important. Questions? Comments?
I think I forgot the instruction part of the gates. Can you give us a really quick summary of it? Because we're not staring at a dot.
No. So you're keeping your eyes open just to let light in, so just stay awake. So you're not closing your eyes because you'll see things on the back of your eyelids. So you keep them half open and you let your vision go soft, go blurry, so that you're not, because if you start to focus on one particular point, it will move, because your eyes don't stay still. Your eyes move. And that's just the natural state of your eyes. But it looks like it's outside of you. It looks like it's moving out there. I see other people would see other things. I see cityscapes, for probably being native to Los Angeles or something. But they're rising or falling. They're not staying still. They're moving. And then I realized that it's just I'm hallucinating at that point. And that bring myself back, just let the focus go soft. So that is kind of the last instruction after you achieve a posture, making sure everything is aligned physically, have your hands in the cosmic mudra, and then pressing your tongue up against the roof of your mouth to make sure and swallow so your sinuses stay moist so it prevents coughing and sneezing. Then keep your eyes lower your gaze to about 45-degree angle to the floor, eyes half open, and let your focus go soft. That's the way I usually say it in that order.
And then in your mind and being present to the moment, being present to the moment, your eyes being partially open is aware of your surroundings. That is the moment. Mm-hmm. And you bring your awareness back to the breath, which is also the moment. Mm-hmm. And awareness that you're with the sound, everything that's in there mm-hmm. is the moment.
Right. But all of that happens before it becomes an explanation.
Yeah.
Before it becomes a story.
Yeah.
So it is really directly, intimately experiencing your essential nature just as it is before the story, before we call it a name or give it a description, just as it is. And, teachers who've been, practicing for years and years and decades will say that they're still working on following the breath. So it's not just a beginning practice. It's a way of really just working on that, over and over again, the experience of being in the moment in yourself, as it is, as you are, as your being. Because you practice with your whole body, with your whole humanity. So there's nothing that isn't there. You as a human being and all your experiences as a human being, all your reactions as a human being are also present in that moment. Which is why everything comes up and does it. Happiness, sadness, tears of joy, tears of sorrow, all of it is present because you are present. And how to take care of that is the constant question. What's here right now? Anger, will rise up. Very clarifying sentences. It's really focused with anger.
I wonder if AI will ever truly be superior to a human being who is in that state of complete absorption with all possibilities open. And I've noticed that in legal AI, for example, it doesn't think very well outside the box.
No. Well, I think
so far
AI doesn't think. I mean,
I'm using the term.
Yeah.
It doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
It won't go outside, kind of the superficial analysis that it does,
right.
Which that engages very thoroughly.
Yeah.
But if you miss the point of the exercise, then yeah, you have you did a great job researching something that wasn't exactly the subject.
Yeah.
Or you didn't see the other alternative. So I had a very difficult research assignment where it was going to be, I didn't know what was going to happen. I had to clear everything out and just be completely absorbed. But I realized my practice helped me do that because I could completely function inside of what I was reading, what I was thinking, what things that were occurring to me, the limitations I had seen on the AI research, and it enabled me to find what I was looking for, just another way out. The person I was trying to help. But when we are that completely absorbed with all our senses operating, all our possibilities, and all of our training and conditioning and everything else, it's amazing. It's
an amazing gift. So, I mean, just the physical discipline of getting yourself to the cushion for a period of time every day gives you the ability to do that in in anything in life. It gives you, it's that practice of delayed, what's the word, when we're trying to instantly satisfy ourselves with something, delayed, gratification. Yeah, so you've voluntarily chosen to sit and not move. And as your body practices that, it becomes familiar. And as you have experiences with it, those too become familiar. and then you begin to apply it
Exactly.
to everyday life.
God then, I think, teaches us not to be subject to the distractions that normally would crop up.
Yeah.
We weren't able to focus on being in that space.
Yeah.
A total, commitment to the present.
Yeah. So if you can do that internally, it automatically works externally. So something trying to not let you focus, you just like set that aside. Not that you won't take care of it later, but you're not focused on that right now. You do the same thing in Zazen.
So it seems like the distractions are the illusions too.
Yeah.
So the practice is a practice of where we recognize the distractions of what they are.
Yeah.
The thoughts are the distractions. Sensations are the distractions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The illusions.
Yeah. Not that those, what I constantly try to remind people is don't judge those illusions and distractions and
They're not bad.
They're not bad. Yeah. They just are. They're part of what the mind does. The mind, which is why this is not a practice. I mean, there are practices out there where you're practicing. You practice stopping the thoughts. You're trying not to think at all, and that's not this practice. This practice is about recognizing that the mind is a sense organ. What it does, it naturally does is think. So it's doing its job when these thoughts come up. But that's not what you want to focus on right now. You just set those thoughts aside, not trying to stop them, just let them go, and bring yourself back to the breath, back to your shiva, back to your koan, whatever your practice is. Invariably, this translates out to everything we do in everyday life. People try to keep their spiritual side and their secular side separate, and it's really not possible. Even though people try to box it in and say, "Oh, I'm being Zen right now, and I'm not being Zen over here," and why? Way too much work to try to do all that separating. Just be Zen all the time. Because the only thing that Zen is not a set of, beliefs, or states of being or states of mind. It is just your natural self, your natural way of being. So you're not trying to be something. You're really trying not to be something. It's like to be or not to be. It's like neither. Third option. I'll be when I get up and I'm ready to be, or I'm going to not be when I'm ready to not be. But in the meantime, what's beyond being and not being? That's it. Okay.
I have to be careful for myself because if I'm not careful, Zen and Zazen can be another distraction. So I read that in the book, there's another Zen author that I've got to read.
Yeah.
And I used to talk about meditation with my colleagues and look at me, I'm superior, I'm meditating, and you're not. And it's just a dangerous path.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of spiritual materialism. I certainly had all the Zen books before I started formal practice. I proudly displayed all of my Alan Watts books on my shelf. And, look. Useless. So completely useless. Great writer, loved Alan Watts. I never knew he was British. I accidentally heard a tape of him later, like after I stopped reading him. I said, "Oh my God, I never knew that he was British." And now I have to remember his words with a British accent.
He got you here.
He what?
He got you here.
He did. So it worked. Yeah, I mean his book, "The Wisdom of Insecurity," was the first book I read of his. When I was changing my major for the third time in college, what am I, 21, 22, or no, I graduated 22. So I was like 19, 20, going, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I'm going to be, poor and destitute. So I walk into the bookstore, Matador bookstore at Cal State Northridge. The books are in alphabetical order by author, so I walked into the back end and saw this book, The Wisdom of Insecurity. I went, oh, that's calling to me. I had no idea who Alan Watts was, what he was about, and that was the beginning. And it was around that same time I saw the ad. Remember the LA Weekly? Is the LA Weekly still around? No. There was an ad in the LA Weekly about beginning meditation class at the Zen Center Los Angeles. So 10 years later, I remembered. By then I've read all the books. I remember that ad. And it was actually right after the LA riots. So LA riots were May of 1992. It was also the time I burned out being a piano teacher. At that time, I had something close to 60 kids, 60 students a week that I was seeing. I was done. I couldn't do anymore. Closed the studio. I remembered that meditation. Okay, it's time for a new life. And Labor Day weekend of 1992, I end up at Zen Center Los Angeles, and the rest is history. Here I am today. But yeah. So nothing wrong with the books, nothing wrong with the words and the language and the stories and all the stuff that we use. Nothing wrong with the striving, because it's that striving that gets you here. It's the striving that gets you, building the habit of, getting to the cushion is hard to do to begin with. So there is that work, that striving that gets you there. And then eventually you realize there was nothing to get. It was there the entire time. But you had to do all that work to uncover it, because we cover it up with so much stuff. So it takes a while. It's that peeling of the onion, getting to the core that is required. So worth the work, worth the effort, worth all the books and the striving and whatever it is it takes to get to reality, because it is not readily apparent, readily presented in this or any other culture. I think it's human nature not to deal with reality. We want it to be something other than what it is, but it never is other than what it is. So eventually we've got to circle back and somehow deal with it, and most people do. Some people don't. But questions, comments from the Zoom? I'm glad you guys got the new Zoom code, and you're here. Great. All right. What's up next? I skipped one. 26. Two monks roll up the blinds. So here's a hint. Nature does not have ambiguities. But oneness is not sameness.
Nature does not have
ambiguities.
special things.
And oneness is not sameness. That'll give you the clue as to what the next koan is about. All right, final words before we close. Thank you, everybody. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The Dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The Dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain. Okay, a few announcements. As always, much gratitude to all of you for being here, your generous donations, and for those of you who are on Zoom, glad we have a new code. And the dog enjoyed Zazen. Don? You're on mute, Don. Don, you're talking, but you're on mute.
As a result of the
Okay, say again.
as a result of the Dharma talk, she's getting closer to having Buddha nature.
Okay.
Not all dogs have Buddha nature, but this one seems to.
He's getting there. Good to know. Good to know.
Okay.
Did we send Choa his stipend?
No.
Okay.
Do you know how to reach him?
I'll send you his. Yeah, I have the address for Sweetwater. I'll email it to you. I have my new Think book thing. I write things down because 5 seconds from now, I will not remember. Send address to Alex.
Is there a new Zoom address published somewhere on our website? If you click on the link on our website, you can always have the link. It's right there. Okay.
Oh, okay, good. Couple things coming up, 3 things coming up in April. First weekend in April is their annual marathon, which is always a problem to try to get here because they block off this street. So, and there's no parking. And all the parking lots that are around here say no marathon parking. So you have to find street parking. Where I've usually found it is, what's that main road?
PCH?
Is that PCH? So on PCH, you may have to park a few blocks that way. I'm directionally challenged, whatever way. So you have to you may have to be ready to walk a few blocks so get here a little bit early because you'll have to probably find street parking on a street that isn't blocked off. First
Saturday.
Let me get you the date.
Yes, the 5th.
5th, yeah. It's in 2 weeks.
Park across the street in that lot because we're not marathon parking.
Well, what they don't want is people who are displaced by marathon to park in their lots. I don't know how closely they're checking.
I parked over there. I parked over there for a problem.
Yeah. 2 years ago, I parked in that mall that's just up the road, and I didn't get caught. So, but they had a sign there, no marathon parking. So I don't know how closely they're checking.
Well, we're not marathon parking.
What we're displaced, our parking is displaced by marathon. So I think that's the point.
So we won't be able to get into this.
You won't be able to get to this parking lot. So it is open, like they finish before we do. So by the time we're done, they're gone.
You can come by bicycle.
Yeah, bicycle. There you go. For those of you who live close enough to to do that. Yeah, so Saturday the 5th, that's happening. So just to put everyone on notice. April 10th is the actual day, which is a Thursday, so we'll have to figure out a day when we can celebrate. It'll be our 15th year anniversary. We started April 10, 2010. So it's hard to believe that has actually happened. Fortunately,